Welcome to Two Wheels, and on this week's show, Jeff takes a ride on Honda's new VFR 800 with its fancy VTech engine. And later, Wayne will be travelling down to Trentham Gardens near Stoke-on-Trent for some off-road action.
Now, back in 1986, Honda launched the VFR. It was a 750 then. Since then, it's gone through quite a few changes, but during that time, it's become the genre for the definitive sports tourer. Now, some say it's a bland old man's bike simply because it lacks shell suit colours and gaudy graphics. But I ask you, when did you last see a Ferrari with gaudy graphics? But no, just like the new R1, the VFR 800 VTech is very discreet about what it does, but there are a lot of surprises under that fairing, and there's a hell of a lot of technology. Now first, that VTech business. It's not totally new technology because Honda use it in their Accord cars, BMW use it and Porsche use it, but it's the first time on a bike. So what does it all mean? Well, I'll try and explain. I'm not a teacher, but I shall do my best. Now, all bike engines, they're all built for maximum performance. So you're familiar with the terms 4-valve cylinder heads and all the rest of it. This is no different. A V4, 4-valve cylinder head, 16 valves altogether. But if you just think of one cylinder with its 4 valves in, what Honda have done, they just opened two, one inlet and one exhaust at low engine speeds. This gives much better breathing, better fuel consumption, more efficiency. At low engine speeds, the VFR will waffle along on a whiff of throttle with perfect fuelling. Powers up by 5 brake horse on the old model, and it also feels stronger in the mid-range between 2 and 6,000 revs. But hit 7 grand and those extra valves open up, and so does the Horizon. It really does feel a completely different engine. It howls and snarls like no tourer ever would. It's not violent or uncontrollable, it's just seamless extra oomph. Just like lighting up the afterburners on a jumbo jet. It's addictive, it's unique, and it's great. But the technology doesn't stop there. If we start off at the back of the bike, see the single-sided swinging arm, you think common as muck, but Honda introduced this first on the VFR way back in 1990. It had been developed for racing by Elf. It was for endurance racing, so you could get the wheel off quicker. Not high-tech, but nevertheless, it's there. But the really clever thing is Honda's combined braking system. What it is, it's linking front and back brakes together. But the really clever thing is 6-pot calipers, but you put the front brake lever on and it only operates 5 of those pistons, leaves another one spare. But as you put the brake on and the calipers actually grip the disc, this whole assembly starts to tilt. See that screw there? It pivots on that and goes forward. I can just move it that little bit there. There's another piston in there, and that's the piston that applies hydraulic pressure through this pipe to the rear brake. So there's 3 pistons on the rear brake, and this one brings one of those on, so very clever. But it's on the road that all this technology comes to life. That wonderful engine blends a smooth 4 with V-twin grunt that not only gives you a nice sound and an even better feel, it also gives it stonking low-down power to catapult you off the line or slingshot you out of corners. Meanwhile, the braking is so controlled it has to be experienced to be believed. This one hasn't got ABS fitted, but in effect it has, because try as I might, I certainly couldn't lock up the back wheel. With both brakes being applied to some extent whenever you operate either lever, the whole bike squats, keeping the weight distribution more even. Very clever and very safe. Talking about safety, look at this lot. You get 4 headlights on when you're on main beam. Absolutely fantastic. And these mirrors too, these are really good. There's no vibration on these at all. And something else, down here on this dash panel, got a full display here, really neat. There you've got your engine temperature. You can change that over, and there's the air temperature. Coming over onto this other side, you've got your ordinary speedo display, your odometer, and then 2 trip counters on there, and you've got your fuel gauge and you've got your clock. Also down there you can see HISS. It spells HISS, but it also means Honda's ignition security system. And it's very clever because in that key there's actually a chip in there and there's a sensor in the headstock. And it's no point just having a key cut because that's not going to do you any good at all. It won't start the bike unless the sensor actually recognises that this key belongs to this bike. So it's a very good security system there. Nice big tank, and you will have seen on some of the earlier shots I've got my magnetic tank bag on there, my favourite, goes everywhere with me like a woman's handbag. Down there on the fairing you can see the side mounted radiators, and I must say this fairing, this isn't the big voluminous fairing that you get on a true touring bike, but nevertheless it does the job. Looks very swoopy, but it's actually keeping enough off you, so it's a nice compromise between sports and full touring. But the thing I really like with this one, it's got a centre stand, very sensible for a bike that you're going to do some serious touring on. So it's easy to heave up as well. You've even got a nice grab over this side. There we go. And that allows us to look around the amazing exhaust. Sweep up the top, just Ducati style, you've seen it all before, but they've got this funny triangular shape at the back, really distinctive. You're not going to mix this bike up with anything else. The riding position is just so, pitching you slightly forward but not too far. The suspension is compliant and coupled to the stiffened and modified frame, it gives this bike a flickability factor equal to many out-and-out sports bikes. Strangely for this day and age, the weight is up 5 kilos at 213, but that doesn't make it heavy, just totally planted. Now if ever there was a bike for all reasons, this has got to be it. ABS will cost you an extra £500, but at £8,475 on the road, you already get a hell of a lot of tech for your money.
Very often people say to us, how can I get in touch with you guys at Two Wheels? I've got something you need to know about. It might be something bad, it might be something good, somebody deserves a pat on the back, or it might be something that you think we should feature on the show. Well now it's dead simple, and this is how you do it. You can write to us at this address over here, Two Wheels, Men and Motors, Granada TV, Key Street, Manchester M60 9EA. Or you can email us at this address, it's twowheels@granadamedia.com. If it's two-wheel related, then we want to know all about it.
Over the last several weeks, we've been to various different motorcycle shows, haven't we? You know, the International Motorcycle and Scooter Show, we've been to the old classic stuff. So we thought, by way of a change, we'd bring you to Trentham Gardens here in Staffordshire and come to a dirt bike show. Why not? So, you guys who do like those dirty weekends away, you could say we're not leaving you out for a change. If I can fight my way through the crowds here, there's loads of them in there, but you don't think for a minute I'm going to stand outside all day in the freezing cold? Good, no, because there's even more stands inside. Look at that, it's like a caged animal. But the reason they're behind there is, as it is with a lot of helmets, when you have them individually painted, they're worth a fortune. I mean, you can pay £300 and £400 for a fancy paint job on your own road helmet. But there are people who will indeed create a beautiful bit of artwork like that for an awful lot less money. For example, this one was less than £200 to be done. There are some beautiful paint jobs. They'll obviously do them on your road helmet, but seeing as we're at an off-road show, then this is obviously an off-road helmet. Now, aye, there's a bit of a fancy paint job, if ever there was, with the brains oozing as well. And that will cost you just a little bit over 200 quid. Extremely good value for money. Now, like I say, when you come to the old bike shows, you can buy all sorts of fancy colourful gear, like crash helmets and boots and gloves and all sorts. But the dark black stuff like these looks miserable, but it's a necessity. You do need to buy a tyre to use on your machine. Well, you can come here and buy these jelly bow tyres at exactly the right price, buy a whole year's supply for peanuts. And there's all sorts of different types with different lumps on it. Even stuff like this, look at that. That's a snow and ice tyre for Sweden and the likes, with studs on it, metal studs. I wonder if it's the same type that David Beckham uses. Now, you know I'm the expert on two wheels in the clothing department and everything, and I feel I should put my knowledge forward for Angel here. That t-shirt doesn't fit you, get your Deathcore. Now get it off, come on.
Okay, if I have to.
I'm afraid you do. Be rude not to, as the saying goes. Oh, goodness sake, cover yourself up, girl. Put a coat on for goodness. You'll get your death of cold. Now, the common denominating thing at a dirt bike show would actually be them, the tyres. Most of them have got lumps on. They belong to various different types of bikes though. I mean, take this one for example. This is a trials bike. This is a Bultaco Circo. We actually have a British guy who came fourth in the world on one of these things. That's Graham Jarvis. We've seen him ourselves on two wheels doing the indoor arena as well. The man's a star. A trials bike's somewhat different to most machines because where you normally go up to the owner of the machine and say, hey mister, how fast will it go? Well, they don't go very fast. But that's not their intention. They've got a very, very high ground clearance. They're short, they're light, and if you're in the right hands, they go up mountainous things. They'll go over roofs of houses if the right man's riding it. If I'm riding it, I have trouble getting up a curb edging. They come in various different engine sizes and various different sizes. In fact, I do believe they even do one to fit me. So there's me on a little trials bike of which I can get my leg over, and something I have a bit of trouble doing, getting my leg over that is, on a motocross bike. Because the seat height on these things is decidedly high. This is slightly kidology because it's off the ground, but they are very, very high. They've also got loads of suspension movement. They've also got different knobbies on the tyres because the difference is a motocross machine, they want them to go very, very quick. This is a KTM 125, and in the hands of Jamie Dobb, who is a British guy, he is very, very quick because he is our 125 world champion on a bike not dissimilar to this. So I've shown you a trials bike and I've shown you a motocross bike. Well, this is a sort of bit in between. This is an enduro machine. Now, quite a lot of road bike riders out there will know a trail bike. Trail bikes are sort of half road, half off-road, lumpy tyres and a road legal. Well, this is the next level. This is an enduro bike. This, in fact, is a Husaberg made in Sweden, and these machines have won the Enduro Championship in Europe. So obviously it's a good bit of kit. Now, it's road legal, or it would be road legal if you placed it on the road. They do have an ignition switch, they do have a speedo, and they also have lights on them as well. They're awesome bit of kit. Very, very powerful, very, very quick, and they need to be used by an able rider, you might say. So it's no good me having a go, is it? Now, you may recognise them tyres and think they belong to a trials bike. Well, not strictly true, although not very dissimilar. They actually belong to a cyclo trials bikes. These are Megamos made in Spain. And the difference is, of course, you ain't got no engine. You need to pedal them. And we have a lot of youthful chaps riding them because they've got the energy, haven't they? After all, it's a big thing, you know, in Europe, a lot of people riding them. And it's moving over to the UK. They do all sorts of tricks on them, and they do ride in proper competitions as well. Now, as I said, the difference is you haven't got an engine, and my knees are just a bit tired nowadays, you know, due to motocross and trials over the years. So I think I'll stick to the ones with the engine where you just press the button and ride away. Now, looking at that big fat tyre on that wheel, a lovely smooth one, you'd be mistaken, very easily mistaken if you thought it was a road bike. Well, you're wrong, because it isn't a road bike, it's a supermoto. This is a KTM 520 supermoto, a fancy bit of kit. The fact is, when these are used properly, in the right hands, they're awesome. And in fact, after the break, that means you've got to stay exactly where you are. We're going to bring you some of these bikes used in supermoto and some trials.
Well, we'll leave Wayne and the off-road gang there for the time being, but they'll be back with some more action in part 2. Also still to come, Jeff will be here with some more tech talk.
Supermoto and Trials Hall this way. That's this way. Now, I know that at 1:30 supermotos. Oh, we haven't got long, we better hurry up then, haven't we? Eh? Hang on a minute, I've only got little legs. Whoa, I tell you what, we only got it just in time. The lads are already lined up. The guy and the MC there, he's introducing the fact that there's some seriously good riders here, and there's an awful lot of people out there, and the race is just about to start. Now, I bet he's seen some sights here in the gardens, but I bet he's never seen anything quite like this. Now, we did say in the right hands these things are rather entertaining, and this is definitely evidence of it. What's the score here?
Just a change, it's a bit of a fresh start. Done motocross and tried to do enduro for far too many years, nearly 30 years, and I got the opportunity to go to Ireland a year ago to race, and I thought, right, that's for me. It's a bit of motocross, road racing, but stature's a bit too big, so went out, bought a bike, put some wheels in it, and did this year's Supermoto Championship, which has been like a fresh start.
So the crowd have been introduced to our famous world champion Dougie Lampkin, and they were obviously very impressed with that. You don't often get a chance to meet a British world champion, and now we've got a display team, a trials display team. We've got Martin Croftway and we've got Dan Clark, two super lads. I've known them for years. They're a very talented pair, and they've set up the Extreme Trials display team. Let's see what they get up to then, eh? Right, I did say when I introduced the fact that these trials lads, I did say that I've known them from the past. Well, you can tell they're a little bit younger than me, but I have known them since they were little sprogs. And you've obviously learnt a bit, guys, because that was stunning. It was a good display. What on earth possessed you to come down the avenue of doing trials displays?
Well, from the start, we've always liked demonstrating and to the
showing off and
showing
posing.
off,
Yeah.
So basically, we put a package together, and this is what we want to promote. And
but I mean, you've both been doing European Championships in trials, haven't you? Are you still doing that? Are you still doing that, Matt?
No, I mean, I'm busy now with Scorpa, and I want this to build up as well, and we need some good publicity. It's a new idea, it's a new concept. We think we're pretty unique, we don't really have any competition in what we're doing.
Yeah.
And we want to try and come across to as many people as possible.
I want to come along and have a watch when you're doing your practicing and things like that, and I can teach you a thing or two. Oh no, sorry, you can teach me a thing or two. So I'm going to come along one afternoon.
Definitely, we'll get you up and we'll get you over this big trailer.
Excuse me?
It's third gear for this one, right?
Is that right? Yeah. I've only ever, sorry, I only do first gear. Before the break, I happened to show you some push bikes, and I did say I didn't fancy having a go myself because you've got to pedal the things. I also said that there are some clever young lads who ride them. Well, there's Dan and Ben here, they're the British champions. They ride them, and they're doing a demonstration here in the arena. Excuse me. Taught him everything he knows. You know, I've had a thoroughly enjoyable day today. I've been inside and I've seen loads of new model machines there, all the new off-road machines. Looked at a bit of kit, some gear. I've seen the indoor arena trials guys. I've seen the young lads there on the cyclo trials. I've seen the super motards, and I've even had a walk in the park. It's fantastic. In fact, a walk in the park, it's spoilt by the noisy motorcycles.
Suspension, eh? Where would we be without it? But what goes into suspension? What's in these fork legs? What's in the rear? Well, come with me and I'll show you. Okay, but before we get into the nitty-gritty of actually doing adjustments, let's talk about some basic principles. So if you already know it, excuse me, it won't take long. See this, I've knocked this up just to show, I've got a bolt there with a spring on it. If that was your basic suspension with absolutely no damping whatsoever, this is what would happen. You'd have suspension, but you'd bounce up and down. Wouldn't be very clever. Terrible for handling as well. What you need to do is hydraulically damp that. And by damp, we don't mean using water, we're going to use oil. Oil gives you lubrication of the parts, and it's got a certain viscosity to it, which is far better than using water. Forks would go rusty anyway. With this oil pump here, I've put a spring around the handle there, and see that? That just bounces up and down, just like that one did. But if we draw up some oil in this is ordinary engine oil, but it just shows the principle. There we go. Then I put my finger over the end to give it some control. When you push down, see the way that changes? Stiffer to put down, and also slower to come back. That's your damping. But let's put that out. That's all very well. What do we mean in the real world? Here we have a fork leg. This one quite sophisticated because you've got your adjustments actually for your compression damping down the bottom and your rebound damping at the top. On this one I've actually slackened both screws well off. So that one's off there and the top one is. Now if I push that down, just like that little demo, see how easy it goes down, and it also flies back. If I now clink this up, and it's got little clickers on there, you can probably hear those going around. It's important to count the clicks when you are messing around with that, but I'm going to bang that one right in. Look at that, you can even hear the table creaking. That's really stiffened that up. So that's your compression damping. Rebound, we go to this top part here. Little screw on the top there, you've all seen this. Again, you can hear the little clicks, count the clicks. So I'm going to wind that one right down, so that's maximum. You see what happens here. See how slow that is to come back? So that's your rebound damping. The last bit that you hear about is preload. Now preload just refers to the spring alone. So in there, there's a big spring, just like this one on here, and what you're doing is actually preloading it, putting some tension in it before you start. And so you use this part at the top here, this upper bit, clamp that down, and you actually compress the spring and preload it before you even hit a bump.